Good afternoon, everybody. This is the webinar for Sustainable Energy Decarbonisation Springboard Courses, being run through the Faculty of Engineering Computing, the School of Mechanical Manufacturing Engineering, Dublin City University. My name is James Carton. I'm Assistant Professor in DCU, specialising in energy, sustainability and hydrogen. And I'm also Chair of the Graduate Diploma Sustainable Energy Systems and the Chair also of the Graduate Certificate in Energy Systems and Decarbonisation. My colleague Anne Marcy is also online, and both of us then will be very helpful throughout this session to answer questions, engage with you. We would request that you click on the questions and answer tab and type in your questions. Any question, please ask. No question will be ignored. No question is, all questions are useful for us and for you. So do that as I go through this presentation, but also at the very end, we'll have loads of opportunity to ask questions and discuss anything that comes up. So the way I'm going to run this webinar really is just I'm going to go through a bit of background on why we've pulled this course together, kind of where this course brings you, and then I'm going to go into the course itself, into the modules, and then so I'll be literally about 10 minutes of presenting, and then I want loads of time for discussion and questions with yourself. So where are we today? We are in a world that's warming up. This is a data that comes from about middle of the 1800s right up until today. And as we go across the years, over the last 120 odd years, we can see our planet is warming up. And this is unprecedented, and it's due to human impact on our environment. And it's something that we are witnessing over the last 30, 40 years of climate impact. And it's something that we need to do to actually engage with to solve our human emissions that's causing global warming, and actually develop and transition our energy systems. And even with the fact that climate change didn't exist, we live in a very much changing world due to human activity. We have a booming population spread across the entire world. We have cities that are becoming mega cities. We have resource issues, we've energy use, we've transport development, we've got communication, global communication, and then we have our society to think about, our education of our society, where we live, what type of society we live. And then in relation to climate change and the impacts of global temperature rise, we will have problems to deal with, such as food management, water management, coastal erosion, ingression of salt water into our pure water. We have biodiversity. We currently have biodiversity issues due to human impact and encroaching in on natural habitats, causing issues. And one of them might well be the coronavirus. So today I want to kind of just go through two courses that we're running in DCU, the Graduate Diploma in Sustainable Energy Systems and Graduate Certificate in Energy Systems and Decarbonisation. And really what these courses do is prepares you for an understanding of where we are within our energy, our sustainable systems, and then that gives you the tools, the capability, and the knowledge to develop these modules and this progression into your own career path. So DCU, why choose DCU? Well, DCU is ranked top 2% universities worldwide. It's always ranked top university, Young University of Ireland, and it's ranked top 100 universities globally for social and economic impact. DCU also on the sustainable side, you know, again, DCU estates and DCU schools engage with awards. Most recently, DCU estates won a Sustainable Water Achievement Award in 2021. And, you know, as a university, we try to practice what we preach, certainly on the sustainable side. And obviously we're not doing enough. We need to do more. And you know, it's part of the education, we'll say, system is to lead by example. And DCU, I think, is trying to lead by example. And certainly as we come across to future targets of 2030, etc., public service, DCU, universities will have to lead by example and decarbonize and be more sustainable. So why choose either of these springboard courses? Well, as I said, you know, we're living in a really interesting time in history. We unequivocally know that humans have damaged our climate. We've contributed to global warming, and in addition to that, parallel with that, we're also have created a biodiversity crisis. We've encroached on nature, and this course pretty much, you know, educates you on that information and knowledge, but then also gives you the tools and the knowledge around how actually we can transition away from the damage that we've done. The energy transition is a thing that you'll learn a lot. You'll understand a lot more about water, resources, waste, emissions. You'll learn a lot through emissions targets, greenhouse gas emissions that we within our industry, within our transport, within our heating, emit to the atmosphere, and how those emissions have to reduce in the targets that are set by either national or European or global scale. We then go into, we cover everything from device to system to building to nation to global perspective. And that's the really interesting thing about these two courses, is that, you know, from a building point of view, if you're in a factory and you want to, you know, do something, even if you're a homeowner, you want to see whether a heat pump is a thing to invest, we give you the tools, the knowledge that you should be able to understand these systems, put them in the right places, know what technology has worked and is useful, know what technology is coming down the road, and how to actually integrate some of these systems together. The most beneficial reason for doing this course is career opportunities. You know, our economy and European economy generally, and the global economy, is coming out of COVID. We're trying to come out of COVID in a more sustainable way. We have targets from global Paris climate agreements. We have EU Fit for 55 ambitions, and our economy must develop the tools, the technologies, and implement these changes to our economy. And because of that, engineers, basic engineers of all levels, of all graduates, will be required. And our graduate certificate and graduate diploma qualifications, we've seen it in the last cohort of students that have come through this program. They're literally being swept up from different companies because of their experience, knowledge, the projects they've done, the knowledge of gained through these courses. And again, you can look at it philosophically and say that you want to change the world, and certainly any individual can. But as together we can do a lot more. So what will be covered in this course? Well, it'll cover pretty much, and I'll go through the module, probably be a little bit more straightforward really to understand. But we're going to cover pretty much introduce you at a graduate diploma level into, you know, what's the problem. And really the first case, when you're trying to understand solutions for something and engage with something and even applying the right technology, you need to know what the problem is. So we look at energy systems, look at what their impact is on our climate and our emissions into our environment. And then we understand buildings, we understand systems, we understand water, waste, we understand heating, transport. And then we try to kind of develop, well, knowledge around that, measurement, auditing, around actually taking data from these systems to make sure that we have the quantified data that's useful to us. And this is very interesting from a building point of view, from a system, whether it's a car, whether it's a control system, but it's also very important from a national system. For example, the national electricity grid, national gas grid. Understand really what have we, measure what we have, measure what we're doing, and then apply scenarios or model differences to understand how, if we changed X, Y, Z, that we can actually reduce our emissions, have the system more efficient, etc. And that's effectively the tools that we give you. We do some deep dive across a number of modules in understanding the solutions, giving you a toolbox of tools, but also the methods of how to implement them, and then for you to apply them in your career, in your own careers, in future careers, to obviously develop a more sustainable society. We engage with the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which if you don't understand, haven't seen before, definitely you will come across these. Myself personally, I engage with SDG number 9 a lot, number 7, 12 and 13, and they're pretty much around affordable clean energy and infrastructure around that, responsible consumption, and then obviously climate action. So I think, but the SDGs are a really interesting block of goals for the world to achieve, and they all integrate with each other. If you can develop clean energy, you probably will allow people to have cheaper electricity. So therefore, that impacts if they're on the poverty line. In other countries, people don't have food or don't have food, electricity, or water. So if you can integrate something into them, that would benefit their own social status and their well-being. And again, they're all cross-cutting issues, which again impact every decision that's made at an individual level, but also from a national level in policy and regulation. And when we go into policy and regulation, one of the things of recent interest is the climate action plan that was passed in government last Friday, and the week before then was ambitions from the Fit for 55, which is the Green Deal developments of reducing huge emissions across Europe over the next decade. And these are going to impact us on every day. And as we, engage with our jobs, our careers, in our industries, in our lives, we will be impacted by those decisions, positively and negatively. Positively on the side of emissions will be reduced. Negatively might be the fact that your petrol and diesel prices will increase. But then positively on the other side, we'll have opportunities to engage with other solutions, and so that we don't have to drive as much. We can take reduced cost public transport, etc., and more efficient public transport. So all these things are kind of part of the mix of the graduate diploma and the graduate certificate at 2 different levels. So we engage you with 5 core modules. All 5 core modules are covered in the graduate diploma, and 3 of them are covered in the graduate certificate. And this is water waste management, energy system decarbonisation, energy auditing and energy management, whole life cycle analysis, and then advanced sustainable energy systems. Now, personally, I teach the MM536, Advanced Sustainable Energy Systems, but my colleagues teach the other ones. And what we try to, as I said there, what we try to do is build you from the start. Energy system decarbonisation, gives you the insight of actually where emissions are coming from, how our energy systems need to be radically developed, radically changed, and how that can impact positively and negatively on a society. Then we go into energy auditing and management. Measurement, data is very important. Understanding how a system works, whether it's a car, an individual car, or a whole fleet of trucks. We need to understand why they're emitting emissions. What can we do to maybe negate those emissions, whether it's maybe not driving at all, maybe that's the solution, or maybe it's actually using a greener fuel or a greener vehicle, or actually using some mass transport solution. So we don't silo anyone, we don't have one solution, we apply sustainable solutions, and cross-cutting sustainable solutions is the best way. And then we go into whole life cycle analysis. This is really looking at costing, but also in relation to emissions. When you look at, say, a battery electric vehicle, it has 0 emissions, which is great. So there's no health issues at the tailpipe of your battery electric vehicle. It doesn't have any emissions at the tailpipe. But if you look through the process of actually the manufacture of that vehicle, where that electricity came from to actually power that vehicle, the materials required to actually put into the battery, all that is very carbon intensive and has huge social impacts and huge costs in relation to managing of the resources, etc. So we look at that not just for electric vehicles, across different technologies, across all technologies if possible, and we give you the tools and capability of how to do that with different systems. And again, this is becoming very much the standard within energy analysis, is actually looking at from, we call it dust to dust, when you mine it out of the ground to when you're disposing of it at the end of its life. How much of an impact has that created on our environment, on our emissions, on our lives, on our health? And that's a really holistic way of looking at it. And then advanced sustainable energy systems ends up being in semester 2. And this looks at looking at where our systems are and where they need to evolve, introducing energy system modeling, governance, policy, regulation, all that side of it in relation to our energy systems. What are the bottlenecks? And really interesting kind of how to engage with those processes. If you come out of a sustainability qualification and you don't know how to engage with big problems at governmental level, there's a failure there. We try to kind of fill that gap so that as a company, as an employee of a company, as an individual that wants their future to be brighter, or even as a person that aspires to work with the UN or the EU or government, the tools that we will supply through this course will be invaluable from a sustainability point of view. So in parallel with that, we've our other supporting modules, MM588, which basically helps you develop a literature around a topic of your choice, a research topic of your choice. And again, we'll give you lots of information and detail on that as if you engage with the course. We've entrepreneurship for engineers, and we've also got technology career success. And again, this whole these modules tend to support and scaffold you as a career going into diversifying from your own current career and education into a sustainability path. And we'll try to put all the supports we can to support you. So specifically to the graduate diploma, if you're interested in this is kind of the way the semesters fall. So in semester 1, you have Energy Systems Decarbonisation, you have the planning and research project, you have energy auditing and energy management. And then we have a technology career success, which goes across the whole entire year. In semester 2, then you've kind of used the semester 1 modules as your basis, and now you're going into semester 2 with whole life cycle analysis, advanced sustainable energy systems, water waste management, and then entrepreneurship for engineers. Then gives you that edge then in relation to your own personal career development. And again, it ends up being a 60 credit qualification. So please put up questions as I go there. And then, so the course outlined for graduate certificate in Energy Systems Decarbonisation, we have a couple of core modules here. So with Energy Systems Decarbonisation, we focus in on decarbonisation for this, advanced sustainable systems, which then gives you the information and knowledge around what are your options really, what are the tools in your toolbox that you can use. And then we wanted to bring in resource management, water waste management. And you can see that I haven't said treatment. Waste should be managed, not necessarily treated. So you should never produce a product if you're not going to use it. So it negates the treatment requirement for it. And then obviously technology and career success is going to be a year-long module to support you on your career development. And this kind of gives you the scale. There's 30 credit graduate certificate and a 60 credit graduate diploma. The graduate diploma is more intense, full-time. It is a lot of hours required per module. There are a lot of projects, exams, etc. to go with them. And the graduate certificate is part-time. You've only got one module or 1.5 modules, we say, in semester 1 and 2.5 modules in semester 2. And these modules then in both of them complement each other. So this is my my final slide effectively. It's how to apply. I won't go through the boringness of all this slide information, but effectively there's 2 options. Graduate Diploma in Sustainable Energy Systems is the full-time. If you think you've got the qualifications, the experience, and the intent and the motivation to do graduate diploma, apply. We will vet your CV and motivation letter and your education, see if you're able. And remember that it's full-time. People do work when they're doing this course, but certainly it's a full-time course, so just be aware of that. Graduate certificate then is part-time, less hours, less intense, similar modules, and could be done part-time, but certainly any activity that you're doing in education, just you need time and effort to actually do it.